Welcome in everyone on this Sunday before Memorial Day. It's about 10:45. Thank you for joining us, and I know most of you will probably be watching this after the live is over. So those of you tuning in later, thank you for joining us, even though it's not live. So I want to give everybody an update on what we got going on tonight into the overnight hours. And as you can see from the radar, we have a lot of activity north and west of Dallas-Fort Worth. And these have been severe most of the afternoon and evening out in West Texas. We've had some activity starting to get ramped up across the Red River in Oklahoma, and we'll just go ahead and put this in motion really quick and give you an idea of what is headed our way eventually being the overnight hours, and we'll put a time frame on this as we go along. So you can see nothing's moving terribly fast. The complex to the west is moving to the east, maybe 20, 25 miles an hour. The complex to the north up in Oklahoma, I'll go ahead and stop this. Right now it's kind of moving more east. I think eventually it'll turn this way, and this one will turn this way. Horrible arrow, sorry about that. So I think eventually what you're going to see is you're going to see a line. Well, let's get this. There we go. This whole thing will form a line and then ultimately move this way. Now, the thing that the $1 million question, if you will, is this going to be bad or is it not? So, a couple of things. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 a.m. And we'll show that graphic here in just a second. Matter of fact, I don't know if I included that. I don't think I did in these slides. Okay, we'll talk about the timing. So this is the timing we see right now. We see these, like I said, these individual storms are really starting to form into a line now. They're going to start to congeal and move southeast over time. You can see from this graphic that in the red is where we'll see a chance for severe thunderstorms, and DFW is included in that. And on the bottom half of this slide, you see the timing, and DFW is in the 2 categories, so that's 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. I think that's pretty accurate. Looking at some of the models, what some of the models are showing us, I think it'll probably be right in the middle, probably about 3 a.m. for most of us. 2 a.m. maybe Fort Worth, 5 a.m., 4 a.m. East of Dallas-Fort Worth. So I think that's what you're going to start to see as we move on. Now, what's the threat? This is not really a tornado threat. This is more of a damaging wind threat, a little bit of a hail threat. I don't think the hail is going to be as big a deal as the wind. Now, like I always like to say during these situations, it doesn't mean that everybody's going to see the worst of the worst. It doesn't necessarily mean this is going to be a repeat of May 28th of last year. The setup is similar, and we still could see some wind gusts approaching that. Let's hope we don't. But I wouldn't be surprised if we did. It's just a possibility, and it hasn't even been a year, obviously. By the time these come through, it'll be May 26th, early tomorrow, and May 28th was last year, so not quite a year, and nobody wants to relive that, and hopefully we won't. So let's kind of go through the particulars. So this is the severe weather outlook. The enhanced risk in the in the orange, is northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth. That's been pretty accurate because that's where most of the bad storms have been. Tornado risk, like I said, not really much of a tornado risk. Certainly not in the supercell sense. That's all up in northwest Texas, and even that's starting to die down. We're barely in the 2%, as you can see. If we did see some kind of tornado, it would be a spin-up type, nothing in the traditional sense, although spin-ups can be just as bad. The severe hail outlook, most of that is northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth, even have a significant in the hatched. That's 2 inches in diameter or greater. Again, not really a big threat for Dallas-Fort Worth. And the wind threat. Now, again, this kind of clips to Dallas-Fort Worth area, the significant wind. That's 70 miles an hour or greater. And in the hatched area, so there's a possibility of that. And I think it's based on this setup. It's pretty warranted because of this line that's going to move through. Now, like I said, is it going to be 70 or 80 miles an hour? I hope it's not. I hope it isn't, but definitely could be a possibility. So that's why they've put the outlook for that. And as we get into tomorrow, we are going to see showers and thunderstorms move out probably before sunrise, and then that front is going to stall somewhere, anywhere from Dallas Fort Worth south. It could stall right over DFW, and if it does, then we will see another chance for showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon, and then those could be severe as well. So hopefully that won't be the case, but it's definitely a possibility. All right, so let's get back to the radar here, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit more. Well, not that much. Okay, there we go. All right, we'll put this in motion. And if you have any comments, just put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer those. So, again, these storms aren't moving terribly fast, 25 miles an hour to the east. And the storms west of us in the Abilene area are moving east, of course. And these storms that have really gotten going up in Oklahoma, right now they're moving east as well. So those individual storms are moving northeast. Now, if we stop this, I think eventually what we're going to see, as I mentioned earlier, is we're going to see this form into a line of storms and move this way. And again, based on the models, which I'm going to show you in a second, that is something that will probably move through the Dallas-Fort Worth area anytime between midnight and 5. I think, like I said, it's already close to 11 a.m., so it is not going to be midnight for any of us. Like I said, most likely you're talking about 3, maybe 4 a.m., depending on where you're at. So that's the risk. Now, like I said, the biggest risk is wind. The hail risk is not zero. The tornado risk is not zero, but they're much less than the wind threat. As I mentioned earlier, I'm hoping it's not a repeat of May 28th of last year. Right now, the setup is not like that. I mean, it's similar, and it definitely could happen, but right now it's not looking that way. But it's definitely a possibility. So let's get to see if I can show this graphic here. Let's get to this, see if I can find that. Watch. Yeah, this is not the greatest, but we'll look at it anyway. You know what? Let's see if I can zoom in on this. There we go. So everything, excuse me, everything in the pink there is the severe thunderstorm watch. That yellow stuff is the tornado watch west of us. So this is until 5 a.m. The biggest threat is wind. Again, the definition of a severe wind gust is 58 miles an hour or greater. That's what the severe thunderstorm watch is about, and that's the biggest risk. Like I said, is the tornado risk zero? No. Is the hail risk zero? But it's really not going to be the severe weather player tonight. So this is another kind of bigger picture of what's going on out in West Texas. You can see these clusters of storms. And I'm going to click on this box. You won't be able to see it. The severe thunderstorm watch is in effect from now till 5 a.m. The way the Storm Prediction Center describes it, let's zoom in on this a little bit, is that the severe threats, the primary threats include large hail up to 1.5 inches in diameter, not quite golf ball, scattered damaging wind gusts to 80 miles an hour, a tornado or two possible. So again, that's why we have a severe thunderstorm watch, not necessarily because of a tornado or a hail, but because of the wind. And that is what we have to watch out for. Hello, Amy. You are welcome. I'm glad to keep you informed. Jenny, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Yes, that is what this is about, keeping us weather aware. That is why I'm doing this at this late hour. I want people to know what's going on. I think I could put this one in motion, actually. Yeah. So like I said, this is a little bit broader view. And like I said, you can kind of get the general sense. All those yellow flashing boxes are severe thunderstorm warnings out in West Texas. And if you didn't know, let me stop this. There's a couple different types of categories. There's a couple different categories for severe thunderstorm warnings. You have the good old-fashioned severe thunderstorm warning. Then you have what we call a severe thunderstorm C, which is could cause considerable damage. That's typically, they put that tag on there if there is 70 miles an hour winds or greater in a storm. And then they have the destructive tag, which is 80 miles an hour or more. And just for reference, last May 28th is we did have a severe thunderstorm warning that had a destructive tag on it, and unfortunately some of that happened. We don't have any destructive tags right now, so that's good. We only got one considerable tag, and that's out in West Texas. That's good. Hey, David, you are welcome. Glad to keep everybody up to date. I figured, I figured I would come on and do just that because one, it's holiday weekend. Two, you could see some weather overnight, and wanted to give everybody a quick update on that before we all went to bed. All right, so let's see. Let's go back to here. All right, actually, let's go here. All right. Matter of fact, I think, let me do this. I'm going to switch this out. Let's see, does that work? Let's do this. I don't know that this is going to work the way I want it to. Doesn't look like it. All right, so we'll go back to this. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to back this up a little bit. This is the HRRR model, the high rapid refresh model. High resolution rapid refresh. It is late. So, this, matter of fact, this is kind of got ahead of time. Okay. So this is, when this model was run, which is about 7 p.m., that's what the model said the radar would look like. It's not actually too far off. So that would be, now this is, let's see, so 4 Zulu, which would be 11 p.m., 12, midnight, 1, 2, 3. So you can see, according to this model, it would be approaching Dallas-Fort Worth, 4 a.m., 5, 6, 7, 8 a.m., 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., tomorrow, and 3 p.m. So you can kind of see these storms that are down south. That's where the front's expected to be, and that's where we could see some regeneration of storms tomorrow afternoon. Now, let's look at the NAM, North American, as they call it. And it's going to be a little bit different. They all are. But again, this is, let's see, let me make sure this is the latest. Yep, it's the latest. Whoops. Kind of gave it away there. So again, you can see these lines of storms moving through as a Boeing segment. So that is something that another model looks at. We'll do one more here. Let's do this one. All right. So again, you can see these lines of storms. This one shows a little bit more of the storms in Oklahoma that we see now. And then this, again, this one's not too bad. This is 5 a.m. So this one has a little bit later, 6 a.m. And then they have several clusters moving in. And then again, in the afternoon, they have these storms way further north than the NAM, or excuse me, the HRRR did. So let's just give you a quick flavor on what the models are saying. So in summary, it's this, is that, and let's go back to, which one do I want? Let's do that. Okay, so in summary, hey Angela, watching from Santa Fe. Okay, before driving back home tomorrow. Okay, so Angela, if you are, first of all, thank you for watching on YouTube. Appreciate it. If you are driving back tomorrow, should be okay for the most part. It all depends on where that front settles in. And as a matter of fact, we go back to, here we go. So if this front settles in south of DFW in the afternoon, you should be fine coming back in. If it settles far, if it doesn't go as far and stays around DFW, then you could have some issues when you get back home. So overall, you should be fine. Not terribly worried about your trip. So but no matter what, stay safe on the road out there. So while I'm talking about this, we will put this in motion. And again, fairly slow right now. But as time goes on, it'll speed up a little bit. And, it's something that is just going to move through our area. The question is that how bad will it be? Right now, I would say that it won't quite be as bad as last May 28th. Now, I say that with not a lot of confidence, but right now it's looking that way. I think regardless, it's going to be stormy. And I was talking about this at a graduation party I was at earlier tonight. Is that there's a couple models, not the ones I showed, but there's a couple models that show these two separate areas splitting Dallas Fort Worth. And so really what that was trying to get at, just for graphical reference, is that this would scoot this way and this cluster would shoot this way. Now, and then you don't really see a whole lot here. Certainly nothing severe-wise. Could that happen? Could. I don't know that it will as this whole line evolves, but it's something that could happen. I think the bottom line is this. When you go to bed, which is not too far away for me, is that you're going to most likely, anywhere you are in North Texas, you're going to see some, I say rough weather, that's relative, but you can see some stormy weather. How about that? I think not everybody's going to see the worst of the worst, like I always say, but some of us, especially these cluster to the north, this cluster to the south, hits your area overnight, 2, 3, 4 a.m., then yeah, you'll probably get woken up and it'll be pretty stormy. The other areas won't see it as bad. So, the way it is that that's impossible to know, obviously, exactly where something's going to happen in that minute of detail. But it's something you just want to be aware of. Like I said, severe thunderstorm watch until 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Okay, I did it again. 5 a.m. And so it's something that, not that it'd be terribly panicked about or anything like that. It is just that something to be aware of. And this is where I always say, if you have a weather radio, then this is a time to make sure that it is on, set for alerts overnight, because you might want to get woken up if it's worse than what you think. If you don't have that, at the very least, make sure that your cell phone alerts, the government alerts, are on. That way, and by the way, that your phones, that's where the phone is not quite as good, because if you have a weather radio, any kind of warning is just gonna go off and let you know. If on your phone, it's only gonna go off for two reasons. One, if it's a tornado warning, which you definitely want it going off for that, or also if it's a severe thunderstorm warning, it's only going to go off if it's has a destructive tag on it, not a considerable tag or just a regular tag. So you could have a severe thunderstorm with quote unquote 70 mile an hour wind gusts, but it's not going to have a destructive tag on it, and your phone's not going to go off. So just kind of a little trivia there. Like I said, that's why weather radio is always great, because it doesn't depend on cell networks or anything like that. Okay, so the bottom line is this. If you happen to have any loose items around your house, I would definitely secure them before you went to bed. And like I said, sometime around most likely for us, most of us, 3 a.m., 2 to 4 a.m., you could see some stormy weather. How stormy? On the worst end, you could see 70, 80 mile an hour winds. On the less kind of more conservative end, I guess you could say, it could be 40 or 50. I know which one I'm going to take. I'm going to take the 40 to 50. But again, we just don't know for sure. It's impossible to say. So just be weather aware tonight. Secure any loose items. Like I said, the tornado threat is not very great. It's not great. The hail threat actually is not great. Not that you could see hail, but the biggest threat would be wind. Everything will move out probably before sunrise. Hopefully we'll all escape unharmed, no damage, anything like that. And then we have another chance for thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon, depending on where things set up, and I'll be on top of that, of course. All right, I don't see any more questions in the chat. If you ask a question after I sign off, I will try to get to that the best I can. As always, I'm watching the weather so you don't have to. Hope everyone has a great rest of your Sunday. I know there's not much of it left of it. Have a good Memorial Day, and remember what Memorial Day is all about. It is all about our fallen men and women that have served in combat. They're no longer with us. That help keep our freedoms. The freedoms we currently have helps us to keep them. So please remember that tomorrow. All right, like I said, as always, I'm watching the weather so you don't have to. Have a great evening, everyone, and we will likely, maybe not, but maybe see you tomorrow. I'll keep you updated as always. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.